Today, we're going to talk about the top 5 ways in which educators can think more like a designer. So stay tuned. Hey everybody, this is Michael Cohen, the Tech Rabbi, and today is Educated by Design. And today, I'm going to try something new. I'm going to try to break up this conversation into a nice 3 to 4 minute chunk, and then after that, I'm going to build on it. So if you're in it for a quick inspiration, then this is the place to be, but stay with me, and I'm really going to try to build out these 5 different concepts and really try to give you some serious resources and food for thought so you can start implementing these concepts in whatever space you're in. Number 1, understanding clients' needs. Okay, this one is huge, all right? If you want to be a good designer, you need to have your pulse on the needs of your clients. If you come at it as, I'm an expert, I know what's right, I know what's the best, it is going to be absolutely miserable for you. We get it. You're a designer. You're talented. That's why they're coming to you. And so whatever profession you're in, you should come off with the assumption that whoever is your clientele knows that you're an expert, and that's why you're hired, and that's why they're there, right? So you're going to need to use the lens of empathy to really understand who your clients are, what their needs are, what their challenges are. What do they need to succeed, right? You design that need for them. Number 2, developing multiple strategies to meet the needs of the clients, right? That's really big. If you think you're going to solve their problem or their need on the first try, that's just not how it works. If you take a look at any famous designer, you will see that they are constantly looking at multiple angles, multiple strategies in which they'll be able to service their clientele. Now, as time goes on, you might develop a series of tried and true strategies that you'll test out. So it's not about coming up with a brand new set of strategies and angles for every single challenge or every single time that you need to strive to meet those needs of the client. But you need to come up with multiple angles. You need to think from multiple vantage points so that you can, in the end, kind of synchronize and synthesize together those different components so that you can come up with a stellar final product that's going to meet the needs of that client. Number 3, clear communication with the client during the design process. Now, in education, this is huge, right? We are all masters of summative assessment, right? You introduce content, you give them the resources, they need to read, they need to study, and at the end, you give them that summative exam. And that's where everybody's shocked when it doesn't really work out the way you expected or the way they expected. That's why formative assessment and really that whole concept of continuous communication, checking in with the client to make sure that they're on the same page with you and you're on the same page with them, is really a recipe for success. Number 4, it's all about designing multiple prototypes that are going to engage and empower the client, right? So many times we design something and we think that it's right. We think that this is the best design. But if we could create multiple rapid and quick prototypes, just simple rough concepts, and engage the client to see what's resonating with them, what engages them, what makes them feel empowered. When I have conversations with potential clients, when I do design work, I always ask them, what are you looking for that will absolutely delight you? Right? You want your designs to delight them. They want to leave the experience feeling empowered that you've given them something new, something that's going to allow them to be successful long term. And number 5 is about creating a final product that's going to allow your client to succeed, not just on the short term, but on the long term. And in education, that's really difficult because the entire machine of education has been created and tuned for the short term, right? Your success for the year is going to be dependent on various benchmarks and academic growth that your students achieve. But what about the long term? What about what happens 2, 3, 4 grade levels from now? Or what about giving them life skills and abilities that are evergreen and tried and true? And a case in point example is how you teach students to master communication, whether it's verbal, whether it's written, or whether it's visual. You have to empower and prepare your students to succeed in these spaces because these are evergreen skill sets. And every single individual that walks through the 4 walls of your classroom and moves on to the rest of their life is going to, in some capacity, have to master the one or maybe all 3 of these modes of communication to succeed in their professional and personal lives. So that sums up the 5 in 5, meaning those 5 ways in 5 minutes or less that you can start thinking like a designer to solve your problems and achieve the best quality outcomes today. Stick around if you want to see more in depth the way in which you can start implementing these 5 ways of thinking like a designer. So back to focusing on that number 1 piece. It is so important for you to develop a lens of empathy in whatever you do. Empathy is the key to successful human interactions, whether it's with your children, your spouse, your friends, your professional colleagues, students that you might mentor and teach. You have to be able to empathize and understand who your clients are and what their needs are. You need to do some research on them, survey them, figure out what it is that gets them ticking and how you can help them succeed in whatever objectives you would like them to thrive and grow in. Right? So I think that's really important. The design thinking model starts with empathy, and I think that's an amazing place to start. You can check out in the description if you aren't familiar with design thinking. It was a model created a couple decades ago through a collaboration with Stanford and IDEO, which is an amazing think tank, and has created and launched many different solutions that you take for granted, such as, when was the last time you microwaved something, right? So check out for sure in the link descriptions to some resources for that, but it all has to start with empathy. That is the absolute key. So number 2, right, that multiple strategies to engage and support your clientele. Right? So it could be through the forms of communication, it could be through empowering them and giving them a voice in the process, it could be collaborative, right? The other strategy that I think is super important is that we effectively look at the way in which we package and communicate from the get-go. That is a strategy, right? How are we packaging and introducing the conversation or the content or the process in which we're trying to support the needs of the client, right? That front end, which ties into number 3, which is that clear communication, right? Clients need to know what they're getting themselves into. And for you to assume that because you said it to them on a phone conversation, or you wrote it in an email, or you even printed it out or sent them a document, that it's going to be clear cut and allow them to be ready to go, it's just simply not true. And it's really important for us to have that communication in the beginning and really front loading and scoping out so that they're clear and on the same page as us. Then it goes to that clear and continuous communication. Yeah, you can communicate too much. It might bog down the process, but it's better for you to ask questions and give them the headspace that you really care and are considering their input and their same page status as something valuable, right? That's going to get them to really appreciate that not only are you providing them a service, but you really care about fulfilling and supporting their needs. Number 4, that prototype concept, right? So one of the fears, especially in the education space, is that you need to deliver a refined and final product to then succeed in servicing your clients. And the truth is that sometimes it's better to have a couple different prototypes in which you can get constructive feedback before you get too far along in the process. And so when you're designing lessons, consider the prototype method in which you're showing your clients, aka your students, what's the potential, what could arrive or what could result because of this angle or this process. I think that's really important, right? And then number 5, that conversation about creating the product for the long term. So you have to meet those literacy benchmarks in math and in reading and in writing. You have to give them a broad introduction to a wealth of knowledge in humanities and in the sciences. But don't forget those soft skills. And we're not talking about buzzwords and things that are trending. We're talking about age-old fundamental skills that, for whatever reason, are not taught in the school classroom, right? They're just not taught in school. And it's crazy, right? So it could be that they're being taught more so now than they were 15, 20 years ago. But I can tell you, as somebody who went through a K-20 experience, I didn't take my first communication class until I was a freshman in college. How do you think I felt? And how do you think the people that were in this class felt? They were not prepared. They were not comfortable. And don't tell me that those PowerPoint presentations that I gave during my high school career or my middle school career counted. They absolutely didn't, because I wasn't given context, or I wasn't given any skill set in becoming a better public speaker. I wasn't given the ability to understand how script writing is not writing down my script or the words that I'm going to read on business cards, but it's about giving key points and really internalizing so that I could have a conversation right now with a smile, with confidence, without stuttering, and be able to communicate the ideas and the things that I'm passionate about. So you need to focus on that long term as well. We don't want academic quality to be sacrificed in the name of innovation, technology, collaboration, or any one of these soft skills, but we do want them to be able to complement and give our students a tool set that's going to give them the space to succeed later in life, in that real world. Anyway, so that's 5 ways that I think are definite food for thought in how you can employ methods to start thinking like a designer. Thanks for watching, and please don't forget to subscribe, share out this content if you felt it was valuable, and please share your thoughts in the comments. It's all about engaging and developing a conversation. Till next time.